The Aral Sea was once a magnificent sight. In the 1960s, it was the fourth largest lake in the world. Its waters teemed with life, supporting a thriving fishing industry and bustling coastal communities. The air was filled with the cries of seabirds and the laughter of children playing on the beaches. Today, the Aral Sea is a shadow of its former self. Where once there were waves, there is now only sand. The fishing boats lie rusting on the dry seabed, monuments to a bygone era. The air is thick with salt and dust, a constant reminder of the ecological disaster that has unfolded here. The story of the Aral Sea is a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of human actions on the environment. It is a story that we must learn from if we are to avoid repeating the same mistakes elsewhere. The Aral Sea was located in Central Asia, nestled between the Kizilkum Desert to the south and the Betpak Dala Desert to the north. It was fed by two major rivers, the Amu Darya and the Sir Darya, which flowed down from the mountains, bringing life-giving water to the region. Spanning over 26,000 square miles, the Aral Sea played a vital role in the ecosystem, moderating the climate and providing a habitat for a diverse array of flora and fauna. The sea was home to over 20 species of fish, including carp, catfish and sturgeon, which supported a thriving fishing industry. The Aral Sea was not just geographically important, it was the lifeblood of the region. Its shores were dotted with villages and towns, home to people who depended on the sea for their livelihoods and their very survival. The tragedy of the Aral Sea began in the 1960s with the ambitious irrigation projects of the Soviet Union. Driven by a desire to transform Central Asia into a major cotton-producing region, Soviet planners diverted vast quantities of water from the Amu Darya and Sir Darya rivers. Massive canals, some stretching hundreds of miles, were constructed to carry the water to the thirsty cotton fields. These projects, while successful in boosting cotton production, had a devastating impact on the Aral Sea. As more and more water was diverted for irrigation, the flow of water into the Aral Sea dwindled. The sea, starved of its freshwater inflow, began to shrink. What was once a symbol of abundance became a symbol of human folly. The decline of the Aral Sea was shockingly rapid. By the 1980s, the sea had shrunk to half its original size. The salinity of the water increased dramatically, making it impossible for many species of fish to survive. The once thriving fishing industry collapsed, and the coastal communities that depended on it were devastated. The receding shoreline left behind a salty wasteland contaminated with pesticides and fertilizers that had been washed down from the cotton fields. Timeline of the Aral Sea disaster. In the 1960s, Soviet irrigation projects began diverting water from the Amu Darya and Sir Darya rivers. By the 1980s, the Aral Sea had shrunk to half its original size. The fishing industry collapsed. In the 1990s, the Aral Sea split into two separate bodies of water, the North Aral Sea and the South Aral Sea. By the 2000s, the South Aral Sea continued to shrink and is now largely a dry seabed. The Aral Sea's disappearance is a stark reminder of how quickly human actions can alter the natural world, often with unintended and irreversible consequences. A toxic legacy. The environmental fallout from the Aral Sea disaster has been catastrophic. The exposed seabed, now a toxic desert, is a source of dust storms that carry salt, pesticides and heavy metals across vast distances. These dust storms pose a significant threat to human health, causing respiratory problems, throat cancer and other illnesses. The local population also suffers from high rates of malnutrition and infant mortality due to the contaminated water and lack of access to healthcare. The Aral Sea disaster is a stark example of how environmental degradation can have severe consequences for human health and well-being. It highlights the interconnectedness of ecosystems and the urgent need for sustainable practices. The global water crisis. The Aral Sea disaster is not an isolated incident. Around the world we are facing a growing water crisis, driven by population growth, urbanization and unsustainable agricultural practices. From the drying up of Lake Chad in Africa to the dwindling Colorado River in the United States, the story of the Aral Sea is being repeated in different forms across the globe. These crises highlight the urgent need for global cooperation and sustainable water management practices. The lessons learned from the Aral Sea can and must be applied to prevent similar disasters elsewhere. We must prioritize the health of our planet and its precious resources for the well-being of present and future generations. A glimmer of hope. Despite the scale of the disaster, there is a glimmer of hope for the Aral Sea. Efforts are underway to revive parts of the sea, particularly the North Aral Sea. In Kazakhstan, the construction of the Kokoral Dam, completed in 2005, has helped to stabilize water levels and reduce salinity in the North Aral Sea. This has led to a resurgence of fish populations and a revival of the fishing industry in the region. While the South Aral Sea remains largely a dry seabed, the success of the North Aral Sea project offers a beacon of hope, demonstrating that even in the face of environmental catastrophe, restoration and recovery are possible with concerted effort. Lessons from the Aral Sea. The story of the Aral Sea is a powerful reminder of the interconnectedness of ecosystems and the far-reaching consequences of human actions. It highlights the need for sustainable water management practices and the importance of considering the long-term environmental impact of our decisions. The Aral Sea disaster underscores the need for international cooperation and the sharing of knowledge and resources to address global environmental challenges. We must learn from the mistakes of the past and work together to ensure a sustainable future for all. The future of our planet depends on our ability to learn from the past, adapt to changing conditions, and make responsible choices that prioritize the health of our planet and its people. Our collective responsibility. The story of the Aral Sea is a stark reminder that we are all stewards of this planet. The choices we make today will have a profound impact on the world we leave behind for future generations. It is our collective responsibility to protect and preserve our planet's precious resources, including water. We must prioritize sustainable practices, invest in research and innovation, and work together to address the global water crisis. Let the story of the Aral Sea serve as a wake-up call, urging us to act with urgency and determination to create a more sustainable and equitable future for all. The time for action is now.